Thanks for your patience. And here we go now with the last leg of this race. Yeah, if you're wondering, I do position this tablet so that I can't watch it, but I can listen to it like a podcast if it's a video.
Let me walk through the numbers on this table. The base case is that they don't buy back any stock, so the buyback rate is 0. And if they do that, then the number of shares outstanding that I expect 40 years from now in 2064 goes from 3.5 billion to 8.5 billion shares. Okay, and that's my base case.
Yeah, these jitters are really something.
Of their free cash flow and buybacks.
And look, that was absolutely crap.
Shares.
It was about to go
and so on. So as you go out, we're buying
off the deep end.
Cash flow to buy stocks at model 30, 50, 70, 90%. If they're able
I'm
to
sure
buy,
there's something wrong with this FSD chip.
share count drops by 84%.
For the most part, I'd say 95% of my trips are amazing and executed with perfection.
Buying stock over a 40-year period, chances are the stock they bought in the early years was pretty low price relative to the stock in later years. So that was a good decision. So you can see that the present value per share goes from 33.
But especially when it comes to turning in parking lots, tight turns, it does have the jitters.
Of course, even guests assume that a certain company is going to buy back or not buy back way in the future. Having said that, what's interesting is if you believe that cash flow and is going to skyrocket, which is what we're going to examine in detail in the second segment of the show.
Okay, that was nice.
That cash, there's like buybacks and examples that happen. Not like they had to do it because they had to.
One of the other things that usually annoy me, and I only have to take over sometimes, is when it makes a turn and it goes, instead of right lane to right lane, it'll go right lane trying to get into the left lane, and it's not necessary, it's just, it overshoots the lane, it seems like. That can be a little bit annoying.
Cash balance in 2064. 40 years ago, so please correct me. So, in terms of this number, but if we go with the assumptions in the model, right, profitability year by year, and they accumulate all the cash and don't buy any shares, they issue 2.25 shares.
Yes, I know, I'm just trying to set this.
You're still going to end up with
There we go.
$50 trillion on the books in 40 years. Okay, right? I feel like when I say a number like that some hand will come out of space and slap me, but that just comes out of the model, right? If they buy back 30%, they use 30% of their free cash flow, right? The cash balance is still $133 trillion. If they use half of their free cash flow, they're still going to accumulate cash, $95 trillion of cash. Even if they buy back all this stock, they're still going to have a ton of cash, right? They're still going to have a cash balance to deal with, even if they have an aggressive buyback program. And the extreme end of this, if they use 90% of their free cash flow to buy back stock, they're still going to have $19 trillion of cash. Now, that's the future value of the cash. Discounted back to today, today's dollar is far less than that, but it's still a big number.
Just for folks to understand, there is analysis that's sort of done where obviously not assuming that the vaccine and Watts and or even assumptions.
Yeah, and we'll see that at the end here when we look at that scenario.
Microsoft Tech for Social Impact is committed to making world-class cloud technology accessible and affordable.
That is such a
Nonprofits
pain.
will drive even greater impact. Through our technology grants, eligible nonprofits can get Microsoft 365 Business Premium free. That means best-in-class productivity of your favorite Office 365 apps like Excel and Outlook, plus Teams, with simple.
My sunglass holder is very, very susceptible. Actually, I'm going to change the route.
Best place for creators to make money.
Changing route to avoid a problematic set of lights on Upper Wellington.
So does the target use what goes on the version or capitals for that? No. That big box there. Here might be the capitals working. It's not really you'll find big white capitals like this at every supercharger, usually in points, although sometimes they're gonna have behind capitals. Okay. Those capitals are for AC to DC current. Not that AC current. They can take AC current to the grid or DC current that you can
That was a strange move by that guy.
cabinets. This is so
There was nothing blocking his advancing onto that road and out of the oncoming traffic, but instead he just decided to almost come to a complete stop and then creep.
Wait,
That's a little creepy.
Yep, the new Tesla Version 4 cabinet, about 500 kilowatts for cars, and needs faster charging, supports 400 to 1,000 volt vehicle architectures. Look at the third.
Welcome to this talk. Now, a few days ago, we made a video that recently changed, calling it a consultant surgery opinion about what people are sometimes calling turbo cancers, a term without a precise medical definition, but it actually conveys what is happening to these people presenting with cancers rapidly at a later stage, and they're dying very quickly. I don't want to talk about that today. I want to talk about the first part of this talk, which we haven't played yet. Now, this was at the Jackie Stone conference in Northern Ireland, and so called because Jackie Stone was a heroic physician who sadly, under intolerable external pressure, took her own life. So it was in memory of her. Just before we look at what Mr. Royal says, if you're feeling bad, whatever you do, stop what you're doing, go and tell someone. If someone comes and tells you that they're feeling bad, whatever you do, listen to what they're saying, take them at their word. Suicide is a terrible, terrible tragedy. But anyway, back to what Mr. Royal was saying. Now, he's talking about his clinical observations. Now, when a senior doctor talks about their clinical observations, we have to take this seriously. What's the point of having senior doctors if we ignore what they say? It just doesn't make any sense. We have to literally take them at their word and say, look, if this is your impression, then that's worth investigating. Now, he went back to 2020, 2021, he talked about the media generation, the pandemic of fear, but he was able to carry on most of his cancer treatments, mostly. Now, he wondered where a lot of the surgical conditions had gone. So, patients often get appendicitis, cholecystitis. Appendicitis is inflammation of the appendix, largely bacterial.
Nice.
Cholecystitis is
Once
inflammation
again,
of the gallbladder,
takes
largely
this at a
bacterial.
good
These
approach
happen
angle,
for a period of time with antibiotics.
which
Maybe that's why
oftentimes it does
cases
not.
weren't presented, but they tend to come back later on. The antibiotics tend to put off the problem for a period of time, although that can be a very useful thing to do. Anyway, he talked about the harms done by lockdowns, which was self-obvious that people were lacking vitamin D because they couldn't go outside, that reduced their immunity, and they were more prone to metabolic syndrome, all of which, of course, worsen the prognosis of COVID should they get it. And he then critiqued the vaccine policy as a one-size-fits-all policy. The whole point of medicine is it should be individualised. Care should be individualised to the patient. Each patient should be assessed, care planned, given, and evaluated on an individualised basis. The one-size-fits-all thing is just an antithesis to any modern medical nursing thinking. You shouldn't be doing that at all, and yet that's what largely, well, that's what happened with the vaccines. Everyone get one size fits all. Genetic injection, experimental genetic injection, he mentions. Now, where it gets really interesting and really quite concerning is he's talking about new pathologies. These are disorders within the body that you hadn't been seeing before. So, for example, he saw a big increase in 2021 after the vaccine rollout of vaccine thrombosis, or venous thrombosis, post-vaccination, I should say. Now, venous thrombosis, a thrombus is a blood clot where there shouldn't be one. So he was getting blood clots more than you would expect in the veins. And also on computerized tomography, CT scanning.
That was good, left to
seeing
left.
multiple pulmonary thrombosis in the pulmonary arteries. So he was actually seeing thrombus in the pulmonary arteries, bilaterally on both sides. Now, normally, these would be called pulmonary emboli, and they normally come from things like deep venous thrombosis that goes through the heart, through the right side of the heart to the lungs, and lodges in the pulmonary arteries. But that's not what he was seeing. So he was seeing pulmonary thrombosis, not emboli. And the difference there is important because a thrombus is a blood clot in the vessels where there shouldn't be a blood clot. And if that moves, once that starts moving and drifting off in the venous flow, that becomes an emboli. It becomes an emboli when it moves. It lodges in the pulmonary arteries because it's moved there. But that's not what he was seeing. He was seeing clots which apparently, reading between the lines here, I think this is what he was saying, actually originated perhaps in the pulmonary arteries themselves, which is not what we would expect to see. So it was pulmonary thrombosis, not pulmonary emboli. Thrombosis meaning the blood clots started in the pulmonary arteries, not started in the leg vein or a lower vein and moved up to the lungs. Quite unusual, I must say. It's not something I'm familiar with, pulmonary thrombosis. In fact, the reason that I've said several times in error, pulmonary emboli, just means it's so ingrained you always think of them as emboli, but these aren't. These seem to be a different pathology, they were not embolic. He was seeing abdominal venous clots in the portal vein, going from the duct to the liver, the superior mesenteric vein, draining part of the gut, and the splenic vein, draining the vein again, places you wouldn't normally expect to see clots. Classic risk factors were often not there. Of course, surgeons get to know what patients are likely to suffer from these complications. These classic things are not there, and these are often younger patients in the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. We saw ischemic bowel. Now, ischemic means inadequate blood supply. And if you've got an ischemic bowel, it can be remarkably painful because you get the buildup of lactic acid and that stimulates the pain receptors. It's a bit like cramp. So ischemic bowel, he was seeing, very dangerous, of course, it can necrose and go gangrenous.
I hope that gave you a better view into what I experience on a regular basis. Again, I have to say I apologize because I've been saying we need to change that FSD computer in my car. It'll be up to me to make the time to get in there and get her done. But other than that, it does a fantastic job. These jitters and couple of errors it's just made today.